Hari Om. Good morning, children. Have a nice day. God bless you. Yesterday, we had seen the narration titled The Two Gentlemen of Verona by A.J. Cronin, which described the responsible and matured behavior of two young brothers who toil day and night to pay for their treatment of their elder sister, a war victim who suffers from tuberculosis of the spine. Today, let us deal with the poem The Castle, written by Edwin Meade. It describes the fall of a formidable castle cast by the betrayal from within. About the author, Edwin Meade was a renowned Scottish poet, novelist, translator, and critic. He was remembered for his vivid poetry. He began writing poetry at a relatively old age and over the course of several years worked out an individual philosophical style for which he gained recognition in his life. First Poems and Chorus of Newly Dead contain Meade's initial attempts. Meade's later collections include Variations on a Time Theme, The Narrow Place, The Voyage and Other Poems, The Labyrinth, and One Foot in Eden. Let us get introduced to the poem The Castle by Edwin Meade, which describes the capture of a castle through the eyes of a helpless soldier who witnessed the fall of the castle. We have the slide of the poem given here. It includes 6 stanzas. Now let us do with the poem line by line so that you will understand it better. Let us do with the first stanza. The first stanza reads, "All through that summer at ease we lay, and daily from the turret wall we watched the mowers in the hay, and the enemy half a mile away. They seemed no threat at all." Through this stanza, the poet describes the confidence of the soldiers inside the castle. Actually, the narrator is one of the soldiers inside the castle. He says that all through the summer, the soldiers lay relaxed, stress-free, as they were confident of the physical strength of the castle. Every day, they watched the people trimming grass and leveling lawns in the hay. And they found the enemies half a mile away, and therefore they seemed no threat at all to anyone in the castle. So this is the meaning of the first stanza given there. Even during the summer, the soldiers were relaxed, and through the turret wall is nothing but the tower through which the poet and the other soldiers could watch of what was happening there. The mowers here refer to the people who were just leveling the lawns, the grass there, and they found no threat at all. Now let us do with the second stanza. "For what we thought had we to fear, with our arms and provender, load on load, our towering battlements, tier on tier, and friendly allies drawing near on every leafy summer road." The first stanza says that the enemies were half a mile away and they seemed no threat at all to anyone in the castle. And through this stanza, the poet says the unfailing confidence of the soldiers inside the castle. They ask why they should fear, for they had an abundant supply of weapons and food. That is, you mean by a provender. They had enough food supply. They had an abundant supply of weapons too. They stood one above the other on their towering battlement, ready to shoot the enemy at sight. Moreover, their supporting armed forces were seen moving on every road. Therefore, the soldiers believed that they had nothing to fear and they were never exposed to danger. Through the second stanza, the poet again talks about the unfailing confidence because they had enough food supply and even the weapons there. And they also had their supporting armed forces moving along the road. Now, coming to the third stanza. Our gates were strong, our walls were thick, so smooth and high, no man could win. A foothold there, no clever trick could take us dead or quick. Only a bird could have got in. The third stanza again talks about the physical strength of the castle there. The poet emphasizes the physical strength. The gates were very strong, it seems. Its walls were very thick, smooth, high, and no man could enter the castle, and only a bird could enter, it seems. Look at the last line given there. Only a bird could have gotten, and that also to the turret wall, which consists of small holes. The top tower, which had small holes through which only the bird can enter and no enemy could enter. The third stanza talks about the physical strength of the castle, in which the castle had very strong walls, very thick walls and very high walls, and whatever trick the enemy try, he could never get in. And through the turret wall, only the birds could have gotten. Coming to this fourth stanza. What could they offer us for bait? Our captain was brave and we were true. There was a little private gate, a little wicked gate. The wizened warder led them through. So the poet, I'll just get the link from the third stanza so that you may do better. There is a foothold from which an advanced military operation is made. So no enemy could enter even with this clever trick. Nobody could be captured either dead or alive, and only a bird could have gotten. The firm belief of the soldiers was shaken due to the greed of a disloyal warder of the castle. See, he talks about the physical strength of the castle. He was very confident that nobody could enter, but the fourth stanza brings in the betrayal nature of the soldier who was found there at the wicket gate. Again, the firm belief of the soldiers was shaken due to the disloyal warder. The wizened warder led them through. He talks about the disloyal, wizened, old warder. Warder is nothing but the security at the gate there. He had been bribed by the enemies, and so he had to let them in. And what is the use of the physical strength and all that? They had enough food supply, they had enough weapons, they had that military force with them. They also had their supporting allies along the roads there. But everything had gone a waste but for the wicked warder who had been bribed. The wicked warder at the private gate who led in the enemies through the gate. Fifth stanza. Oh, then our maze of tunneled stone grew thin and treacherous as air. The cause was lost without a groan, the famous citadel overthrown, and all its secret galleries bare. The famous citadel is nothing but the castle only. The castle was known for its secret galleries that was conquered by the enemies. Maze of tunneled stone. That is what you mean by the secret galleries. You have to talk about the infrastructure of the castle and how the enemies had made their way into the castle because of the warder. The faithful soldiers couldn't even lament over this unexpected turn of the event. All the secret have been leaked. The strong walls have grown weak, such that the air, treacherous as air, air enters any space. It makes a space even through a small hole. So the same way, because the water was bribed, he just allowed the enemies to get in, and the maze of the tunnel stone grew thin and became treacherous as air. And the soldiers inside the castle do not know how to express their lament over this unexpected turn of the event. The last answer. How can this shameful tale be told? I will maintain until my death. We could do nothing, being sold. Our only enemy was gold, and we had no arms to fight with. Now, this stanza reveals the helplessness of the narrator and the soldier. The narrator says that this shameful story of this treachery reveals the disloyalty of the warder, the wizened warder at the wicket gate who had been bribed, cannot be told to anyone. How can the shameful act be shared with the others? Told to anyone. And so he promises to maintain the truth to himself until his death. The poet expresses his regret over their inefficiency to find any weapon to fight with their enemies, for their only enemy was gold. The warder was given the bribery, which was gold, and due to his greed, he had accepted the gold and allowed the enemies inside, and the strong castle has been conquered. Isn't it? And what sort of act you should say? So the previous lesson dealt with the wonderful qualities. You are talking about the sacrifice done by the two brothers. And look at the old warder here. Due to his greed, he accepted the bribe, and he had been the cause for the fall of the castle. The entire unit is based on the same concept about the qualities. Of course, we have a number of qualities in store, but they are not used. The two boys have used it and sacrificed it for the welfare of their family, and by joining the resistant movement against the Germans, had proved their patriotic feel towards their country. Those are the qualities that you ought to possess. But what about this wicked warder who had been there at the wicket gate, by receiving the bribe, had led the castle to a great fall? And their only enemy was gold, it seems. And he was greedy to get the gold as a reward. So once again, let me read the poem so that you will understand. All through that summer at ease we lay, and daily from the turret wall we watched the mowers in the hay. And the enemy half a mile away, they seemed no threat to us at all. See, the poem is in a very simple language and style so that you can easily understand. He talks about the nature of the soldiers who were stress-free and relaxed because they found no threat at all. Until half a mile away, they could not see any enemy there. For what we thought had we to fear, because they had all such facilities, they felt that they need not fear at all. He also talks about the food supply and the supply of the weapon and the military force and the supporting friends they had to stand against. For what we thought had we to fear, with our arms and provender, load on load, our towering battlements, tire on tire, and friendly allies drawing near on every leafy summer road. Our gates were strong, our walls were thick, so smooth and high no man could win. A foothold there, no clever trick could take us dead or quick. Only a bird could have got in. Here he talks about the physical strength of the castle there. Nobody could enter the castle except for a bird, and that also only through the turret wall. Whatever trick they might do, they cannot enter. What could they offer us for a bait? So when we are so strong, what else we need? Because our captain was strong, brave and strong too. Our captain was brave and we were true. There was a little private gate, a little wicket gate. The wizened warder led them through. So everything went on fine except for the wicked warder who was just standing there at the wicket gate, and he had been bribed, and so he had allowed the enemies to enter into the castle there. Everything went on fine. The physical strength, the food supply, the weapon supply, the supporting army, the military force that was ready to fight against the enemies towering on the towering battlements, everything went on except for the wicked warder who was found at the gate. Oh, then our maze of tunneled stone grew thin and treacherous as the castle was a wonderful monument which had all Pakka infrastructure there, and the mystery had been revealed, and because of this disloyal warder, the strong castle has grown thin now. The cause was lost without a groan. And how are these soldiers to express their groan and moan there? The famous citadel overthrown. That's the castle had been conquered, and all its secret galleries bare. Isn't it a shameful act? The poet asks, how is he to share this shameful act there? And therefore he says he would maintain it until his death. How can the shameful tale be told? I will maintain until my death. We could do nothing, being sold. Our only enemy was gold, and we had no arms to fight with. Okay, so everything went on fine except for this disloyalty nature of the author. So this is the quality that you should not possess there. Okay, he had just let the castle fall. Now, going through these key points, I think you can just understand. It's only a gist again given here so that it will enable you to understand the poem better. This poem details a past event where a soldier narrates a castle being overtaken, and it is an unspecified battle. The speaker lives in the castle where none could enter. Though the army is strong, there is plenty of food, and the castle is well guarded. The enemy bribes the warder. He lets them in through a little gate. The poem states that the army that can't be bribed is the strongest. Okay, you should never accept anything. Avarice or greed must be rooted from one's soul to keep a country safe. This reminds me, ask not what the country has done to you, ask what you have done to the country. You should have that patriotic feel. And look at this warder who had been bribed, and due to his greed, he has let the castle down. And whenever you read a poem, you need to know how the poem has been made. The poet has adorned the poem using the sound effects and the figures of speech. The sound effects, the rhyming words, the rhyming scheme, etc. Rhyming words in the sense making the last words in the lines produce the same sound. Now coming to the first stanza, I think I have given you the example: lay, hay, away, all, wall. These are the words that rhyme towards the end of the lines there. Rhyming scheme is nothing but the arrangement of the pattern, arranging the poetic lines in some order. If you just see to the poem there, lay, wall, hay, away, all. Now look at the placement of the words there. So where all you have this, the sound ending with a. Lay, the first line, hay, the third line, fourth line, away. So you can just represent it by the small letter a. That is a pattern. So the poet had used it, the first line, the third line, and the fourth line. Look at the second and the fourth line there. It ends with wall, all. Okay, therefore the rhyming scheme goes like this: A, B, A, B. So you can easily understand this is the pattern uttered by the poet to give it a pleasing feel. Now let us do with the figures of speech. Simile is quite common. You've been doing it, and you know it is a comparison made between two objects of different kinds which have some resemblance or similarities. It is introduced by a word of comparison such as like, so, as, or as so. I'll just give you the line there. Grew thin and treacherous as air. Just go to the fifth stanza there. Fifth stanza, second line. Grew thin and treacherous as air. The poet says the citadel or the castle was very strong. It had very thick walls. It was very smooth. It was high. But after the entry of the enemies by this water had made it thin. So the enemies have entered in and all the ways have been revealed there. As any line that possesses as or like is considered to be a simile, like. And like air has the power to enter any small hole too. Similarly, the enemies have made their way by bribing gold to the water there, and they have made their entry. And the castle was such a great castle, and it is a maze here. It is a mystery. The poet says that it is a mystery. The infrastructure is so amazing, and how it had paved the way for the enemies to get in. Like the air, they have just made their way into the strong castle. Next, we have this metaphor. Metaphor, it is a figure, it is called an implied simile actually. You don't have this like or as directly present there. It is a figure of speech that makes an implicit, implied or hidden comparison between two things that are unrelated but which share some common characteristics. Again, we have that fifth stanza, the first line. Oh, then are mazed of tunneled stone. The first line. The tunnel stone is compared to maze. It is an implied comparison without using the words like or as or so. Hope you understand what is a metaphor and what is a simile. Simile is identified by the direct presence of like or as in a sentence there. And as per the definition, it is a comparison made between two objects of different kinds. The enemies had made their way as light as air because they have made it easy by bribing the water there. And that is what is given by as air. And coming to this metaphor, oh, then are maze of tunneled stone. Maze, it's a mystery there, and such a mysterious place has been occupied by the enemies there, as the air had made its entry into any building there. And then there is yet another metaphor, and I think you have to move to this sixth stanza. Sixth stanza, fifth line. Our only enemy was gold. Our only enemy was gold. The gold or the bribe is compared to an enemy. The gold is compared to an enemy, but you don't have the direct presence of like or as or so. So this is your metaphor. So you are just bringing in the comparison. The poet tries to bring in the comparison, and whenever there is a direct presence of like or as, you call it a simile. And this is a metaphor. There we had as treacherous as air, and metaphor where you have the indirect presence of like or as, and here he means to say their only enemy was gold. And then we have the simplest term called alliteration. Alliteration is nothing but the repetition of the same consonant sound, successive or nearby words. Note that in alliteration the sound and sense go together. The wizened warder led them through. I've just given you one example. Now it is up to you to find the other words there. Coming to the fourth stanza, the fifth line. Wicked, wicked. Wicked is a evil character, evil quality. And wicked, you are talking about the strong gate there. Wicked, wicked. So you have the same sound, wicked, wicket. Hope you understand the difference there. The stress of the and wicked, wicket. And the next line, the wizened warder led them through. Again you have this them and through there. So you have the repetition of the consonant words W and the last two words them through. The repetition of a terse sound there. And this is with regard to your alliteration. and do with personification. Personification, as you already know, it is a comparison of non-living things to consider have life here. An inanimate object or abstraction is given human qualities or abilities. That is given human qualities to non-living things. There was a little private gate, a little wicked gate. The small door or gate is personified as an evil one. So this evil nature and because of this greed has allowed the enemy to get into the castle there. So here the gate is considered to be evil. Of course, it's a non-living thing. It doesn't possess any quality there. It cannot reveal to, but it is a human quality. But through this gate only, the enemies have made their entry, and therefore that wicked gate is compared or is personified to us an evil one. You have yet another figure of speech used here. That is a rhetorical question. Again, you have this. The sixth stanza, the first line. How can this shameful tale be told? How can this shameful tale be told? Now, this is a rhetorical question. A figure of speech in the form of a question that is asked to make a point rather than to elicit an answer. You need not get an answer, but it just says, how can the shameful tale, what is the shameful tale here? The warder being bribed. The security at the wicket gate is being bribed by gold, and therefore he allows the enemies to get into the castle there. So this is a shameful act, and therefore the poet asks, how can the shameful act be told? And he would not reveal it and maintain it until his death there. So it doesn't elicit an answer, but it just asks a question, how that this could be shared. So these are the ornaments used by the poet to adorn the poem there. Hope you have all understood, children. So once again, the key points. This poem details a past event where a soldier narrates a castle being overtaken. It is an unspecified battle. The speaker lives in the castle where none could enter. Though the army is strong, there is plenty of food and castle, and it is well guarded. Even though it is well guarded, the men are defeated. The enemy bribes the warder. He lets them in through a little gate. The poem states that the army that can't be bribed is the strongest. The message conveyed is avarice or greed must be rooted from one's soul to keep a country safe. So once again, avarice or greed must be rooted from one's soul to keep a country safe. And here this shows that you will have to develop the patriotism in you. Unless and until you have this patriotic feel, the love for your country, you can do nothing for your country. At least don't be a betrayer or to reveal, so that you will allow the entry of the enemies. So this is a contrast for the first lesson and the first poem here. There you are talking about the two boys who had amazing qualities there. And there they had that patriotic feel to save their own motherland and their own sister and whatnot. But here you are talking about a betrayer who had brought down the castle there, the fall of the castle. So with this I wind up this session. Thank you, children, and let us meet tomorrow with the non-detail. Thank you.